All right, we are on filmsgonewild.com. My name is John Wildman, and we are going to talk about the Episodic project, The High Life. We've got Stephanie Sanditz, who is the creator, screenwriter, producer, cast. I think she did craft services, was also a gaffer and a grip. Did I miss any of the jobs? Because I'm assuming you did all of it.
Nudist wrangler.
Nudist wrangler?
Yeah. Although they like to be called naturalists, so
that's true.
That doesn't make you want to watch the episode. I don't know
what. well, thank you for joining us, and let's. I can't wait to start talking about it, but let's start off this way. For our audience who has not had an opportunity to see this, please introduce them to the High Life and tell them what it's about.
Sure. So it's loosely autobiographical. I like to say that I grew up in Missouri, actually. My grandparents were from the Ozarks. My other grandparents were from Chicago. But I was a Christmas tree Jew, meaning my dad was Jewish, my mom was Christian. They both wanted me to celebrate all of these holidays, but be seen but not heard. We had a rubber chicken on the top of our Christmas tree, but it was very important that we didn't speak about anything, let alone spirituality or where we go when we die. And cut to, I was always a seeker, and I moved to New York and I wanted to become an artist, and I got a job right out of school reviewing bars. I had to review 50 bars in 50 days, and I kind of explored a little wilder side of my life and didn't see my family for a while. And then I had an aunt that I idolized, who was one of the executive vice presidents of MasterCard. She was behind that campaign, for everything else, there's MasterCard. And she was very successful, very materialistic, had 3 Beamers and a personal shopper at Neiman's. And she unfortunately got ovarian cancer, and she battled it for 10 years, and then she passed away. And so my family got together to essentially see where she left her money. And we were all shocked to find out that her dying wish was for the whole family to get together, get naked, and hike her ashes to the top of a nudist Buddhist monastery that she'd secretly joined the last 10 years of her life as she battled cancer and found peace. So we did that. My totally repressed, not groovy family got naked and hiked a Ziploc bag of ashes up a mountain to fulfill a dead woman's last spiritual request. And on that day, everyone had some kind of spiritual awakenings. And so I decided to make a show that will then explore questioning your mortality and questioning your faith and questioning your life in the face of death, and also ideas that no one is at all who they pretend to be.
I found that, well, there's a lot that I found hilarious about High Life. But when I lived in New York City with my wife, she at some point engaged a number of burlesque dancers for activism, for fundraising, a project, and then through them got connected to a naturalist group, as we call them, and so I've actually been to one of those enclaves. She was naked. I was wearing shorts because I'm a Boy Scout and did that. So I found that aspect of it amusing, because I have been in a situation, and as in fact probably a thought process of the family members, that were in that situation.
It was actually funny that our line producer, who's a great guy, Ryan Schreim, we needed to go to, there was a couple different places, and while we were trying to cast, and SAG definitely has different rules about nudity. So he went away one day, and I was, where's Ryan going? And he went to scout the best naturalist colony, which was not required. And people just would sign up and show up on set. So we were like, okay, way to put in the extra time. But it definitely made for interesting lunches and craft services, and part of us were like, is this okay for the people that aren't that? I mean, it's all the time, but they were wonderful.
All right, here's my first question, which is, when you create something like this, whether it be a film, whether it be episodic, and you are at the not just doing a supportive role, but you are front and center, there can happen, and I have personal experience with this, where you get in the editing bay and you're going, I could have used another take for myself. if I wasn't so concerned about making sure that this aspect was happening or that, especially when you're directing yourself. I maybe I should have worked with that other freaking actor named John Wildman at that, or
Future episodes,
right? Talk about the pitfalls of doing both things, the challenges
sure.
that you had to overcome to do it.
So first of all, while I created it and produced it, Amy French was helping direct it. So I did have a woman that was kind of filling that role. I think all of this, because we did it on such a low budget and in such a short amount of time, is really finding your team. And that's why I think, festivals like the Bentonville Film Festival is so great, because it's about community building. So having someone who kind of serves as your second eye is key. I also just really have to check myself, and just, you really can't worry about how you look, I need to make sure that I'm telling the story and executing the story, whether I'm in front of the camera this day or wanting another shot on someone else or getting coverage on someone else. So that's just kind of a continual letting go of your vanity. Not to say that it's, we don't all have our insecurities, but kind of once you're in it, and this show is so crazy, it's like started off, everyone's in their Spanx, and then it kind of just once you're in it, you forget about all of those things. But in terms of cuts and coverage, that's just a testament to having a really incredible team where you're all really there and in spirit. And so it was one of the best experiences of my life, being able to take charge of all of this. And I tried to just be really gracious so people would have my back.
Right. Well, let's talk about teamwork, and let's talk about your cast, because you've got some vets in there, and you've got some killer people, in this cast. And that's also, when you create something like this, and you're able to secure that quality of people around you, that they're not just fact they're on their set, but the fact that they agreed to it. Yeah. That they read this thing and they said, yeah, all right, I'm on board, I'm with you. Talk about that. Talk about the initial part of that, of the validation of having those folks sign on after they read it, and then talk about being on set, and being in the mix with them.
It was incredible from, the moment that the fact that, so first of all, just to give some shout outs, for one, Aunt Linda is played by Amy Landecker, who's just so iconic, especially now. She was in Transparent and recently Your Honor and Handmaid's Tale and a million other things. She just said yes, and I couldn't believe it. And she's kind of this one-off scene of whoever watches it, and it's just such a weird, bizarre scene, and everyone just couldn't have been more on board. Without shouting out their paydays, it was a SAG ultra low budget, and for every other character, we're asking them to essentially get naked, although it was 5% of our budget was Spanx, in the middle of the summer, and hike a mountain. So it just hands down, you already know these people are super cool and amazing. Linda Pearl, who played the mom, she's on 24 and Happy Days and Homeland and The Office, and she couldn't have been more professional, and it was very touching. She was in between projects shooting other TV shows and decided to do this because she just said that she wished that she had been able to work on an all-female run set when she was our age. Ron Perkins was on Spider-Man and Prestige, and Brockmire was just such a sweet. I thought he brought so much sensitivity and caring and layers to this weird role. Jeremy Glazer was very cool working with. He's also on oh my gosh, Sofia Vergara's show, Modern Family, and The Good Fight. And he, everyone just said that he needed to play this character. It was actually based on a friend of mine. What was cool about working with him was that after we did this, he actually got inspired to write, produce, and direct his own short. He's touring massive festivals right now. So it was exciting. Jesse Garcia is blown up since then. He was on Narcos and Dusk Till Dawn. He plays the character that like, is he real or is he not real? Face tattoo or Gabriel. And he's now playing the lead in the Flamin' Hot Cheeto story, Ava Longoria's movie. So he just got like a really big breakout role. Jonathan Lavalay, who plays Hunter, my boss, is my husband. We got engaged after this, although we had been dating for 10 years. So he's also an actor in his own right, and was in Casual and Shameless, and he's also a photographer. And then Christopher Michael Watson was one of the only that we auditioned for. We actually had offers out to other people, and he just blew us away with all this like sensitivity and layers, and he's become a dear friend since. And then Sherry Weston came out of nowhere. That was probably the hardest role to cast, was the grandmother role, because God bless you, how do you put in, you put in 70 years of time to like have to like still take your shirt off on camera for no money, but she couldn't have been more wonderful. So it was just thrilling. I wrote a lot of love letters to get people to come on board, and they were just in it. I think the people that like were just willing to do it saw the project, and it was either like hard no or hard yes. And it was just really humbling to be on set and work with all of them.
Well, and it's a great mix. It is a wonderful mix. The other thing I kept thinking as I was watching it about Schitt's Creek, and for a number of reasons. But one of the things I wanted to talk to you about and have you talk about was how oftentimes we have to be an architect, as actors, or filmmakers. We have to be an architect of our careers. We have to be an architect for, what we do, the decisions we make as far as our projects. Like, do I do High Life as a feature? Do I do High Life as a series? Do I do it as 5-minute increments I'm going to put on YouTube, and then maybe that becomes something? It's like these things that you go, I have a great idea, I think, but how do I present it to everybody? And I really was anxious to talk to you about that, to get your insight into what was in your head as you were developing this early on, because it's obvious, like as you've let us know, it came from a real thing that happened. So you have this thing, you go, nobody else is going to come up with this sucker. This is all me. But what's my best route to deliver to people? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, you raised so many incredible points. I mean, I think for my career, most people I know, it's following in the footsteps of what people you admire do. And then when that doesn't work, it's just like survival of the fittest. And what do you got? And a lot of it has to do with gatekeeping. If you can eliminate as many gatekeepers and actualize your own dreams on your own, then that's the key. And for the most part, I mean, I know a lot of incredibly talented actors, writers, directors. It's getting the financing. So that's the main building block. And most people don't independently produce pilots. One, because you normally you won't get your money back. Two, it's best case scenario is they're going to have to, reshoot it anyway if a streamer buys it. So this came about in just me having had some real successes in writing and real successes in acting, but always wanting to get a project of my own. I've been a writer for hire and just finished like 3 really incredibly exciting projects, but wanting to do my own. And I really wanted to do this feature that I'm hoping to direct. And a woman who executive produced this named Kimberly McCullough, who is an incredible director now, but she also started out as an actress. She really believed in my writing and wanted to do a project with me. So we did an Indiegogo to raise money for a feature. And it wasn't enough money to make that feature. And she ended up getting a job directing and executive producing all of the High School Musicals and all of these other shows. And she was like, why don't you? And I was about to I started pitching this idea around without having actually made it. And got some real bites from studios, some real interest. But again, it was going to be like, I was going to have to sell it off and give it to another person. And so the time just came around, and we just decided, let's just raise it on your own. And I was friends with friends because she had read my writing with Shannon E. Riggs, who's amazing. She does a lot of doc work. She did Gleason. She actually has another feature in the festival. Thank You for Asking, or something like that. And she did Heaven's Gate, and then Mary Rolick was on Atypical. They all got behind it. And then Amy French was the director that worked with Kimberly McCullough and the AFI Women's Directing Group. And all of these people just kind of read this, thought it was special. We figured out a way to boil down the budget in the script to shoot it in 5 days. We substituted Missouri for Topanga and Encino, and we just did it. And it was the most empowering experience of my life. And all I want to do is keep going.
Well, again, it's one thing for it to be fucking funny. It's one thing. It's one thing for it, to be a pro effort. And you know what I mean when I say that. It's another thing to look behind it, to have an understanding of that decision-making process when nobody else is around you, and they don't have an open checkbook near you, where you're like going, okay, I can try to go this direction or I can go this other direction, and for you to finally reach it and do it and get it there. It is, and it's an accomplishment, and it's a thing that, when I talk with someone like yourself, I go, I can't wait to talk to them, because I can't wait to build that bridge between people that might not get that. There'll be other interviews where people will be talking about, you going into, what the story is, and thoughts about this scene versus that scene, but I always I get excited to talk to someone like yourself, Stephanie, and go, I can give her a chance to say out loud the shit that she should be able to say out loud.
I mean, I so appreciate that. And it's you're obviously an artist yourself to understand, because you tapped into some of the fear that's in there. It's just taking risks, and like all things that people say that you pick up, if it scares you, you should do it. Like, I don't think that should be advice for, maybe not for heroin, but for filmmaking, sure. So yeah, it's just, I'm also just a big believer in trying to be nice and not burning bridges, but also not being too nice. I think a lot of people, you can get stuck never being a director. You can get stuck, it's like going out of levels. You can get stuck just having your idea sit in your room. It's like you have to pass that uncomfortable feeling of sharing your writing with someone else, or speaking up if you're in the writer's room and trying to get someone to read one of your episodes. It's like you always kind of have to open the next scary door. And I think just be honest with yourself about, like, is it the right size step to make it? So it wouldn't have been right size for me to be like, I've always wanted to direct, produce, and write this thing. I'm going to make a $60 million comic book movie, which I just finished writing, by the way, for Catherine Hardwicke. So that's very exciting. So that's little baby steps in the door of like right-sized actions.
Well, again, I enjoyed the hell out of it, but just as much, I admire the hell out of it. So it's been wonderful to talk to you.
As well.
Again, we've been talking with Stephanie Sanditz. She is the everything force of energy, and creative force behind the High Life, which is screening at the Bentonville Film Festival. It's been really great talking to you and meeting you.
Wonderful to be with you. Thanks for having me.